Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hi, everybody. It's Michael Menino, and welcome to Driven. 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody. It's Michael Menino. Welcome to Driven, Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who share their experience with you, the audience, and how they got to where they're at today. And we have a special guest today. We have Jim Rhubart, who started a roofing company a few years ago and ended up selling it. And we want to hear how he did that. So, Jim, how you doing?
I'm great, Michael. Thanks for having me on today.
Thanks for coming. I really do appreciate it. I know you've been busy and running all these companies and roofing and stuff like that. That's really cool what you did. Could you do me a favor and just give a glossary of what you did, the story you told me a little bit earlier in the week or so?
Yeah, I tell you, I try to keep it short, but I guess from the grassroots of it all, my poppy and my dad started the business in 1975, and my dad's had me on roofs as early as the age of 5, believe it or not. I don't know if it was more to keep me out of the house, out of my mom's hair, or why, but it was certainly at a very young age. But from about the age of 12 or 13, I tell people all the time, summers off were no vacation for me, right? I actually dreaded the summer, and I liked going to school because he had me, working hard and brought me up through the business. And I had the opportunity to go to college. I played football and baseball through high school, and I went to college to make sure I had other opportunities available to me. And when I came home, again, even through the summers through college, that's how I made my spending money for college. And I met my wife, and she's a teacher. She had benefits, and my dad basically was like, "Listen, you got to make a decision either way. I'm either going to start slowing down or we're going to ramp this thing up." And, I chose to go into, full-time in business with him in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point forward, it was still the same traditional mom and pop type shop work, right? We were doing 30, 40 projects a year. And it got to a point where, I'm married and we were having children, and I have 3 daughters. And I said, "Look, Pop, we got to do something a little different." And we can get into this more as we go, but I ended up leaving my family company in end of 2017, and worked for another bigger company in the same industry. And that's where a lot of my mentality, my mindset shifted. And that's when I chose to come back, and that's when I scaled it. And, the rest is history. We partnered with another company, and we ended up selling in 2024. Exited for multiple 8 figures.
Nice. That's fantastic. We want to dig down a little bit on that. So a little bit of my background. I was a Finnish carpenter when I got kicked out of Red Lobster from back in the day, and started my own Finnish carpenter company, my building company, flipping company, and then now we're in multifamily. My son's the same thing you are. He started working with me when he was young, really young, and he loves it. And he's doing great at what he's doing now. He's got more doors. He doesn't have more doors. He's doing really well in multifamily right now. So it's kind of cool to see. I'm the father, you're the son aspect of it. So when you started, you pretty much done this your whole life. You haven't really done too much else. And I want to get the perspective of, and this is what a lot of people are missing right now. They say going to school and getting an education is the way to go. And I think I've made somewhat of that mistake with myself and my kids. You went to school, you learned a lot, and you're in something that you didn't need a degree for. Is that correct?
Correct.
And did school help you out at all, like with any of the information or business or anything like that? Or was it all hands-on?
I would say, and this is how I approach this topic still today, right? I have 3 daughters, and, I'm encouraging them to go get their, college degree. Because I think college is, although my dad was very clear on that, how he felt about the universities and things of such, that it's a business, right? But at the same time, I learned a tremendous amount about, the responsibilities of taking care of myself, taking care of the home that I was running. Knowing what my dad was doing to put me through college, I had an obligation bigger than just myself to be successful through it. I was never the smartest in the class. I survived because of the homework, which again I call it the grind. Right, I was still in the grind, just like I was roofing. My roommates, they could party, hang out. They didn't have to go to class, but they were aces, on tests. Well, I had to actually leave on Thursday nights when they were getting ready to have their fun. And they were asking where I was going at 8 o'clock. And I said, listen, I got to go to the library. My dad gave me 4 years. And if anything past four, I had to pay for. And
Right.
we know it's not cheap. So I think going away, I was 8 hours away from home, was a maturation process, right? I had the opportunity to mature as a young man and again, learn the responsibilities of my choices and consequences. And I think ultimately that's what life is about. I think it all boils down to the simplicity of choices. And I made, some good ones and I made some poor ones, and you learn through them. So I think it's important. I kid around with my girls and I say, listen, unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, just get the paper, right? Just get through. Don't keep changing your major. You'll figure it out. And once you do figure it out, they're going to train you to whatever you're going to be doing for them anyway. So I think there's a lot to it. It was a 4-year opportunity for me to grow as an individual. And I don't know if I would have made some of the choices later in business had I stayed continuing doing what I was doing the way I was doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. There's going to be a question at the end that I'm very curious to hear about. So now you went to work and you've been doing this pretty much your whole life. Explain how you decided to. I'm assuming, this is an assumption. So when you left your dad and went to work for somebody else, you saw different systems and process that you ended up bringing back to your um, home business, correct?
Correct. Absolutely. So go ahead.
Yeah, that. So explain what you saw, what you did, and how you brought it back. So you
Okay.
changed the dynamics of a mom and pop shop to a multi-million-dollar company.
Correct. So I think most importantly, again, going back to I'll probably touch on this quite a few times, is were the choices that I made. Right in 2017, I chose to quit drinking. That was a monumental choice in my life. Again, I tell people all the time, and you may hear it in different ways, but it wasn't a problem, quote unquote problem. I wasn't an alcoholic. I wouldn't have the shakes if I didn't drink for a few days. I never had alcohol in the home. Um, but what it was is that I found that it was a distraction. It was I had a deeper calling that I finally succumbed to, and I remember the night that I had it. I came in from our garage. I had a garage, a pole barn, and we were
Mhm.
having some drinks with some friends. And I came inside. I literally broke down to my wife, like I told her there was a fire inside of me that I couldn't extinguish with booze, that I couldn't extinguish with anything, and I had to figure that out. And I literally broke down to her. And it was weighing on me for a while, but that was the breaking point, right? It wasn't not a rock bottom. It was just, I've got to make a better decision for myself and my family. And nobody expected me to do anything more than I was. I was showing up daily. I was doing the right things, but it just wasn't at the level that I knew I was capable of. So that was choice number one. Within 6 to 8 weeks, there was a clarity that I was gaining. And that's when I was, again, you don't know what you don't know, right? And if you
Mhm.
don't change, nothing changes. And going to work every day, I mean, I was handling every aspect of the business. I mean, every aspect. Had a couple guys that we'd have there for labor and all, but from bidding the jobs to doing the jobs, ordering material, collecting payments, and it was just exhausting. And my work ethic, and I speak humbly, but my work ethic is second to none. And it was to the point it was driving me into the dirt. I was exhausted, and I just started exploring some other companies online, and again, social media, things like that were opening my eyes and my mind to other opportunities. And I told my dad, I said, listen, I've got to find something else. I know you're content with 30 or 40 projects a year. I'm married. I have a mortgage. I have daughters. I want to do
They have
something.
daughters. That's expensive.
Right, right. So I said, there's something else that I want to explore. And he kind of took it lightly, and I don't know how serious he thought that I was. And then that's when I reached out to the other company, and
Yeah,
it was.
and if you don't mind, can you mention the other company, or no? You shouldn't mention the other company.
No, it doesn't matter. It was an amazing experience. It was Seashore Construction. I think at the time they were rated around a $10 million company. I went in and did the interview, and they were all like, blown away that they had an opportunity for me to come work for them at the level that I was as head of their residential roofing sales. And again, for me, I've never been a quote unquote salesman. I just sold what we did, and that's we were at that time, just say, a 42-year-old family roofing company. Everybody trusted us; they knew us. So it was the hardest phone call that I've ever had to make on the way home from that interview, when they were like, "Yeah, you're obviously our best candidate, and we're ready." So called my dad, and I could barely get 3 words out. I was very emotional, and he said, and he was very emotional. My dad's my best friend. He's an amazing man, an amazing mentor. And he just said, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
So that was again another choice that was not easy, but as you know, Michael, the better things oftentimes come with adversity and challenge, right?
Absolutely,
And
1,000%.
yeah, so I stepped into that role, and at the end of 2018, I was a little over $2 million in residential roofing sales myself, and that's all retail, no insurance, and it just gave me a better idea of my personal potential with these systems and processes. They had people answering the phones, ordering material, subcontractor crews, software systems that alleviated the burdens of just the pea brain that I have, right? And I realized that these guys, they didn't know anything more than I did, and some of them I knew exponentially more than, and they just weren't afraid to take the next step. And that just helped alleviate my fear of doing that. And I called my dad, exactly a year later. And I said, look, Pop, I said, I want to come back. I want to do things a little bit differently. If you want to do them with me, awesome. And if not, this is what I'm going to do. And he was just like, he calls me Junior. He was like, Junior, I'm just glad to have you back. And
Nice.
yeah, so it was, it wasn't an easy process. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, the old saying. So I found myself right back into doing the old stuff again for about a year and a half. And finally, I just started doing things without telling him. I started, I picked up a software system. I ordered some dump trailers and things that would allow us to grow, and picked up some subcontractor crews. And he finally was, after about 6 months of me changing the process a little at a time, he pulled me aside one day and he said, I get it. I totally get it. So
He had to see it. See, he didn't.
Correct.
He didn't know what he didn't know.
Correct.
You've seen it, and you brought it back, and he's like, "Oh, this is good, right?"
Yeah. Yeah. So, but the one little trick that I did with him is every time that I would receive a check, I would let him go deposit it in the bank. And then he got to see the bank account exponentially growing. So that helped.
So not living paycheck to paycheck was awesome for your father.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I ran a couple businesses, and it, I hate to say it, it's a shoestring budget on most of them. You
Yeah.
live in, hand to mouth, and then when you put the systems in process, and I love how, the reason I love listening to this, and I'm going to say this, me and my son pretty much did the same thing, and now he's on his own, doing what I do, and it's the pride that I get from that, hearing it from you on your end. He made a phone call and said, I want to do this on my own. I'm like, awesome. That's what I raised you for. This is
Absolutely.
exactly what I wanted you to do. And it's just so cool to see another father-son team doing it from your perspective. I got to do one like this for for this system, for this situation. So in the process, you brought over all these new softwares and systems, and your dad started to appreciate it, right?
Absolutely.
So you saw the bank account growing, and then how did it go from there? Did you start to alleviate yourself from the day to day so that the systems and process could work without you?
Yeah. So again, that was another struggle of mine, right? And it still is to today. And that was another mindset shift. So in 2000, I think it was 2020, again with technology and social media, I joined what is it? A mastermind. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I joined a
That's fine.
mastermind. Yeah, I joined a mastermind with other companies that were doing bigger and better than I was, right? And
Hmm.
again, I wanted to build on how they were doing that because again, I think I think knowing is the key factor here.
Hmm.
And so what that allowed me to do was understand that I don't have to control every. Actually, I'm doing myself a disservice, and I changed my mindset from the scarcity mindset financially that my dad was raised with because he lost his dad at a very young age, and his mom was widowed with
Sorry.
6 children. And so, scarcity mindset was how they were raised. So I changed my mindset from that mastermind forward by the help of these men, um, with impact over income, right? So I realized that I could actually bring people in to my company and provide opportunities for them to succeed and incentivize them to maybe change their mindset and their family structure and the way they were living. And so that's how it helped me understand that, okay, I hired my, first project manager. So I'm not on the job every day and I can go out and see more customers. I hired an office manager. We had our first office building. And then I was able to allow my dad to, again, take the tool belt off a little bit more, run some dump trailers, pick up material. And again, let these systems, software, and people help drive the business while I could be more of the unfortunately, for a little while, the Google of the business, right? Everybody would call me with the questions. And again, those kind of things allow you to build, okay, how do I fix that? What's the chain of commands here? How do we alleviate my phone, blowing up all day long so I can be more intentional with my time with other people?
Yeah, so I did a couple masterminds a few years ago too, and every year there was a theme to it, and one of the
Yes,
themes was don't work in your company, work on your company. So you have to
correct.
pull yourself out. That was what I was asking you. You pulled yourself out of the company, the day to day, checking on job sites, ordering the material, and then your systems and process where that automatically happens, and you don't need to be there for it.
Correct.
Was that tough to do?
Extremely difficult. And again, we had growing pains throughout that process, and that's what you want, so that you know what to work on, right? And I hear a lot of my mentors say, hire your weakness, right? I don't like doing QuickBooks and accounting. I don't like handling the calls anymore. And it's almost once the train starts running smoothly, you're wondering if it's even running at all. And you're like, wait a minute, is there something wrong here? And you check in and they're like, no, everything's good. It's like, you sure? You don't need me? You don't need me today? And they're like, Jim, take the day off, go to your girls' soccer game or whatever, whatever the event was. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's an amazing thing once you, again, put those systems and processes in place and trust in them.
And trust in them and trust in the people. Like,
Correct.
I was like you, and I would only trust in myself. When you're running the projects and ordering material and getting everything going, you're only trusting in yourself. You're not trusting in anybody else that works with you. And what I've noticed is when you put trust in the right people, they'll blow your mind.
Absolutely.
Is there times that you've backed off and watched and was like so surprised because the people that you hired were doing better at what they're doing than you were?
Absolutely. And it's funny that you say that because once in a while my project manager would reach out to me, and again, the way I handled these situations was, once I got to the point where I realized I didn't want to answer every question, I would ask them, well, how would you do that? Like, what are your thoughts? And he would come up with the answer and I said, sounds good to me. And
Right.
eventually they would call and ask me and I would say, I don't know, however you think. And they would be like, never mind, I got it.
Right.
So yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing when you empower somebody and you provide them the right tools, and the right guidance and the right culture. Like culture is huge to me. The trust and commitment to the process. Knowing that if we find failure, we're going to focus forward. We're not problem pointing. We're going to focus forward and find the solution. And as long as you're doing that and making customers understand that at the end of the day, you're giving them the 5-star service that they deserve and that we promised, everything will work out.
I agree with that 1000%. I had a little trick, like, the little tricks to keep everybody honest and going. And I keep telling this trick to the day I die. So anybody listening to the podcast, if you have anybody working for you, getting them to show up on time, especially in roofing and construction, is tough, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So here's my little tip and trick for people. What we do is on every crew under 7, anywhere from 3 to 5 people. I'm sorry, 3 to 7 people. It would be a crew that, would do whatever job you're talking about. And we would say, if you're not there at 7:30, if you're there at 7:40, you got to buy coffee and donuts for everybody. And if you do that 5 times in a week, it starts to add up and eat out of your check, doesn't it?
I love that.
Right. And then what happened in that systems and process was I didn't have to worry about it anymore. They would call me up and say, hey, is it 7:41 or is it 7:39? And when it hits 7:40, I go, who's late? Well, John's late, and I go, all right, he has to be in the house. And you see these guys skidding up with their trucks, leave it in gear, jump out of it, and run into the house and go, I made it. And if they didn't, or the traffic in Michigan, it snowed a lot. And so if it snowed, they would just literally just go, I'm buying the coffee and donuts.
Absolutely.
And it was self-policing that I thought was really important about getting people there on time.
Yeah, and what I like about that is you made it almost fun. You know what I mean? You made it like, hey, listen, we're not going to reprimand you, but you're going to go out and get the donuts and coffee.
Well, they knew it, and they didn't even argue it. They knew if they didn't, they're looking at their watch, looking at how the distance is, and there's traffic and all that. They're like, I'm just going to stop. They wouldn't even show up. They'd literally go get the coffee and donuts and then show up to the thing. And so that made accountability. And it was like you're talking about the systems and process that you put in place. Was that amazing to watch how they work? And like you said, when you empower the people to do the jobs, when my contractors would come up to me and say, hey, this is wrong. And I would say, cool. What would you do if you were me? And 90% of the time, they would have a better answer than I would. That's why I would just shut up and listen to them. And then they come up, I'm like, yeah, that sounds better than what I was going to give you. And like you said, later on, they just don't even ask anymore.
Yeah, and again, I always say that your role or your status, whatever you want to call it within your company, doesn't define leadership, right? Leadership is what it is. So make the decision. If it's right or wrong, again, we'll focus forward. I'd rather than make the wrong decision so we can learn from it than never making a decision at all. I heard the other day, like poor decision is better than indecision. Like make a decision, trust your gut, and then we'll learn from it and we'll move forward. So
did you, when you did that, there's times I would let people make a minor wrong decision. They would say, hey, what about this? And I'm like, what do you think? And they think like this. And I'm like, and I know it's not going to be detrimental. It's just going to take a little extra time and I'll have to pay a little bit more money, but they're going to learn something. Did you ever do anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, again, if it was one that I had to step in and make the decision, obviously I do, we do the right thing. But I would also ask them when they were asking me that question and they gave me the response, I would ask them, okay, then what? And then
Right.
it would lead to okay, I see where you're going, right? Like I kind of guided them back into what I was thinking. And oftentimes I would say, listen, I'm open for any suggestions, and not that I'm going to always take them, but I think it's good that we table them, discuss them, and then make the decision together in those circumstances.
So that leads me to another question. What's your leadership style? And you probably had to develop it as you were going too, because there's something with it. You've got a crew and you're doing 30 houses a year. But when you have 10 crews, what's your leadership style differential from mom and pop to multiple crews?
I would listen, and again, I don't have an original thought myself, right? I've had the amazing opportunity to be coached and mentored by excellent high school football, baseball coaches. My dad is amazing, teachers, friends. So I would say my strength as a leader is just leading by example, because I've done this work my whole life. The very first crew that um, I hired 3 crews right off the jump, and I tried one at a time, obviously. And one of those 3 it was an immediate no. I threw them off the job, and I finished that job myself. And the other 2 crews are still with me today, and that's from 2019. Um, and the very first roof that I did with one of the crews still with me today was a 3-layer roof tear off, all new plywood, and it was about 100 degrees here in New Jersey. It was one of those jobs that I've put many men under shade trees. Guys have quit. And this group, at 10 o'clock, we were taking a water break, and we were behind this giant stone chimney. I remember it like it was yesterday, and we were, just dog dead, just overheated, just steaming. And the head guy asked me, he was like, Jim, where are you from? And I thought he was saying like, my town. So I told him, and he goes, no, how about your dad? And I told him, Millville. And he said, no, how about your grandfather? I said, well, Pittsburgh. And then he was in the Navy and met my granny in New Jersey. He was like, no, what country are you from? And I was like, America. And I'm telling you, the crew looked at him like they saw a ghost. And he said, Jim, my guy's never seen a gringo work so hard. and and it was pretty humbling and amazing, and like, so that in itself, I had a tremendous amount of respect for these guys because I've done this my whole life, and they had a tremendous amount of respect for me because I was tool belt on next to them for I stayed in the field with 2 of the crews for a full year. So I would say my leadership is one of example and one met with grace and mercy, because we only learn by what we go through. And I don't ever want to discourage somebody through learning, right? My wife's a teacher. I have a teacher's degree. I have a psychology degree. And I think, again, you attract more bees with honey, right? So, like, to this day, believe it or not, one of the guys on the first crew, he left, I don't know, maybe in 2022, literally cried when he left the crew. He had stomach issues. He went and is working in a restaurant. He literally texted me today. He's at my project manager's house right now, and I'm going to go see him after this podcast. So,
go ahead, finish up.
I was just going to say, I think I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I lead from the heart. Which again can be dangerous at times, but that's just who I am, and I'm not going to deny that.
I like your style, and I think we have similar styles. When you hired people, what was the number one indicator on how you hired somebody?
Number one indicator on how I hired somebody, I would say, is character. I say there's 2 things usually when things are not going well, but it still pertains to people and relationships, is you either don't know or you don't care. If you don't care, you got to go. And if you don't know, I can teach you. So I hire based on character and what you're willing to do, because I can help you with the rest.
I absolutely love what you just said, and I do the same thing, but differently. So I would say, how do you hire? And I said, personality first. If I got to work with you from 8 to 10 hours a day, you can't be a jerk.
Yes.
And he goes, and you get paid. I would say you get paid what you're worth. So if you do a lot of work, you get paid a lot of money. If you don't do a lot of work, you don't. And I can show you how to get a lot of work done. So you pretty much do the same thing I do. I just love how you say that. It's just the same thing but different. That is awesome. So what is one of the biggest challenges you had to overcome? What's one of those hurdles that this is almost going to kill us? And a lot of people say, oh, 08. Was that a problem for you back then?
It wasn't a problem for us back then, and nor was COVID. Like, everybody got scared around COVID. That was actually our biggest year.
Really?
Yeah. And 2 reasons. One reason was my wife is a teacher, and my girls were all in school. So everybody was home. I could literally focus 1000% of my attention on the business. And I did. And I literally fell asleep with a laptop in my lap every night. I was pushing 16-hour days on minimum 7 days a week. I would kid around and I would say I was the first responder. Like there were times, if you remember, you weren't even allowed to be driving around. Like it was lockdown, and I would be out measuring roofs, and I would kid around. My project manager would be with me a lot of the times because what else are we going to do? And
Right.
I would literally say, hey, if we get pulled over, we're first responders. If your roof's leaking, you need a first responder. So um, I would say some of the biggest challenges became advantages for us because, in 08, 06, 08, 09, like that time period, we didn't do a lot. That was the other thing. My dad always wanted to do roofing, siding, windows, doors. We did additions, we did decks, but he never got in the custom building. We built a few houses, but he never got in the custom building because he was scared of the volatility of that niche. So, if you need a roof, you need a roof.
Everybody needs a roof.
That's what he always said. Everybody needs
Everybody
a
needs a
roof.
roof. Everybody needs a roof. When is the question,
Correct.
right? The house I'm living in, the house you're living in is going to need a roof.
Yes.
Yeah, I did some of those custom builds. We can talk about that later. But so did you continue? So when you started to focus on roofing, did you put away everything else and just focus on roofing, or still do the other stuff to make more money?
I finally, I mentioned it to my dad a few times, and I finally like had it out with him one morning at the shop because I didn't like doing roofing and siding. Only because of the mere fact of probably my control issues. I would have to teach somebody how to J-channel a window again. Like when you're on the roof, it's a pretty primitive form of installation, right? As long as that roof doesn't leak and you do a nice, neat job and you clean up. Like most customers don't even know what color roof they have. Like when I go into their houses, even still today, I'm like, well, do you have any choice of color? And they're like, what's up there now? So my theory always was everybody needs a roof, and as long as it doesn't leak, everybody's happy. Siding, interior work, that's something they see daily. And if there's one little thing out of their expectation that you might have done correctly, but it didn't look like they found on Pinterest, you're redoing it. So I finally just told my dad, listen, I want to solely do just roofing. And he was like, I don't know, Junior. And I was like, Pop, please trust me. That's all I want to do. And he was like, all right. And so, yeah, we narrowed it down into just roofing, and he would still do a couple little, storm doors and things like that, and that was fine. But again, the roofing industry is so vast, and there's so many homes that need roofs.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like I said, every house will need a roof. Just when,
Correct.
right? So when you started, so here's a good question for you. Did you plan on did you plan on turning your company from what you did to what it was?
I don't think I strategically planned it, but I did affirm it. I did have affirmations, and I did have the visualization to do that. I knew, again, once I got around some other people, I did know my potential. But I did hit some glass ceilings along the way, right? Growth is and change is difficult. But I would say from like 2019 to 2021, I was able to 3x our family company. Again, a lot of that was just through muscle and work ethic and just being undeniable in my mission to do that. So yeah, it was definitely what I wanted to do. And it's crazy that, that fast time has gone by and that I was able to do it. I almost have like PTSD where I don't remember some of those years, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. You were working through them, and then you're like, the year just took off. You're like, where'd that year go?
Correct.
So, can I say accidentally turned your company into a multi-million-dollar company, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you wanted to, you had the fire in you to expand your company, and you started expanding your company. And then when did you say, maybe let's look at selling a company? When did you say, like, hey, this might, did someone come up to you and give you the idea, or how did that come around?
So in that mastermind, one of the focuses was that whatever company that you have, there was multiple companies in that mastermind. The head guy, Hunter Ballou, is an amazing man. If you get a chance to have him on the podcast, I can connect you to. But he's amazing. Um, he said, always build it, always scale it and build it to sell it. No matter if you do or you don't, you'll have everything in place if that happens. Like, for example, when tax season would come around, my dad would have 2 fold-out tables with papers strewn all over the place, right? We didn't have QuickBooks, and we didn't have the things to make sure your business was in proper order. So again, systems and processes and doing the right things allowed me to actually have a viable, sellable company. And number two is I have 3 daughters, and if one of them wanted to take it over one day, they would never be able to do it the way I willed myself to do it, physically. So I wanted to have a company that if they were interested in, I could leave it to them.
Hmm. That's awesome. So you built a company that, I hate to say this, but I mean, you'll understand it, and people that have sold companies understand it. You built a company that didn't need you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I did everything in my power, and again, with the blessings and the opportunity of the foundation my poppy and my dad built before me, right? Like right now, it's still Jim Rhubart Roofing, because they didn't even want to change the name because of the clout that we had in this area. So again, it wasn't just due to me by a long shot. Now, did I make a few choices and some changes that gave us the opportunity to do that? Yes, but it's so much more than just me.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you're the maestro in the orchestra.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm sure I did a lot of things wrong, and I probably left some money on the table here and there, but at the end of the day, it was an amazing success, and I'm super grateful for that opportunity.
So if you don't mind, all questions are at your discretion. So
Hmm.
when you end up selling it, I assume, did you have a sales broker?
We did not. So this is the way this worked. And again, excuse me for my ignorance in some of this, because it was a whirlwind, right? So
Yeah.
in that mastermind group, we would do off location retreats, right? We did one down in Texas, I think in 2022 or maybe 2023, where he had some people that would come up and speak, and um, keynote speakers, and share their whatever their business was. Like, one was a ghostwriter if you wanted to write a book, but one of them was a company that would partner, not buy your company, but partner with you to help you scale and get in front of PE firms, right? And that was LB Capital and Lance Bachman, who I spoke with at that event. And funny enough, his company is in Pennsylvania, and he had already partnered with a New Jersey roofing company that I was bidding some jobs against, and I was kidding around with him, and I said, "Hey, Lance, I just lost a job to Cherry Roofing," and he laughed, and he said, "Well, when we get back or whatever, hit me up." And so that's how that partnership took place. I contacted him. I joined a couple other companies that he was partnering with, and that's how we were able to scale to the number that we scaled at. In 18 months, we reached a revenue of 25 million, and and then the EBITDA was, again, with a healthy profit. The EBITDA was pretty substantial, and we were able to exit collectively.
Awesome. So when you exited, how did you, so your mastermind kind of gave you the idea and the concept and the way to sell your company. When you end up selling, here's a question for you. When you ended up selling the company, did you did you think about how much it was going to be worth at the sale before you found out what the actual value of the company was?
Uh, I mean, I had all of that data. I had all
Okay.
those. Yeah, I had all those numbers. And we would go over those things monthly of where we were at and what we were looking to do, and we were prepared. We had several PE firms that were interested, and once we got to the point that we were all happy with it, that's when we made the decision.
Do you mind if you tell the audience what you sold it for?
36 million.
36 million. Bravo. That is phenomenal. And then they keep you on. So for people that haven't sold business, they keep you on for a period of time. How long do they? You're still in that process right now, right?
Correct. So February will be 1 year. We have a 2 year commitment again. To if you want, and if anybody has been through this or is going to go through this, they retain you with certain earnouts, right? So at year one, you get another earnout, and then year two
Mhm.
you would get an earnout. So that's how that works. And of course they still need your assistance with carrying on the business.
So hopefully you're making it so that you don't need to be there anymore, and they can handle the great business that you designed, built, and put the blood, sweat, and tears into for the rest of your natural life or their natural life. Correct?
Correct.
Nice, beautiful. So a lot of people think that school is the way to go, and there's a big change right now that most millionaires are being made by the trades than any other industry in the world right now. So would you agree with this statement?
I would agree. I think we're in a big shortage of trade schools and development in the industries. I see it on the daily basis. It's people always say, good help's hard to find. But I think taking the trade schools again, they've taken them out of high schools. They've taken them out of even the beyond high school. I think we are enabling the infrastructure of our country to become weakened because of those things. Um, so I think, and I encourage young adults, male and female, to get interested in the trades and learn them for not for nothing. And just like on my home, I built this home that I'm in right now 12 years ago, and put a big addition on my other house, 2,200 square foot addition on my other house to have the opportunity to be where I am today. Just learning it just for your own home is not only a huge financial benefit, but it's something you can take pride in.
And plus, I've heard the majority of tradesmen don't have mortgages.
Correct.
Yeah. So if you think about that, it's hard. When '08 came around, I didn't have a mortgage, and it really helped out. Being in the trades is so helpful, so impactful, so rewarding, so hard, so painful. So with the good, it comes the bad, right?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, again, that our society is lacking, right? Enduring some of that pain and adversity to feel the reward. Like self-worth is an amazing character trait to have. Like if you have self-worth and you can accomplish something, you can do the next hard thing. And I encourage my girls the same way. I coached them all through soccer, and there were many, many evenings they didn't want to put the cleats on and go to practice, and I remember feeling the same way. But when you
Yeah.
do it, and it's over, it's not that big of a deal, and it gives you that the edge to do it the next time.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. And then it teaches the sports in education, teaches the kids how to just proceed with this world, or how to flourish in this world. If you do the hard thing hard long enough, it doesn't get harder. You become stronger.
Correct.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, listen, Jim, we've been talking a good long time. I do appreciate your time. Is there anything else you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about? Something that you wanted to share with the audience to help them consider what they want to do for the rest of their lives?
I would say this. I would say in 2017, when I made the choice to quit drinking, and I realized um, one important factor for us to be able to serve others is that we've got to become extremely selfish and serve ourselves first. I changed my whole routine from what I was doing to what I still do today, and that's wake up an hour earlier than anyone else in my house. I spend time on me and myself, and then I'm able to then give to others because I'm fulfilled in what my soul and my body needs in order to then have the output to help others around me. And do not fear that purpose-driven feeling you might have inside. Don't try to extinguish that. Open it up, see what it's like, and take that risk. The worst case scenario, like even my dad said when I finally chose to do what we're doing today, as he said, Jim, he said, the worst case scenario is you have to put the tool belt on and do what you know how to do anyway. And thankfully, I've never had to do that again. So don't extinguish that God-given or whatever you may believe in, that purpose you have inside of you. Because I believe we're all built for something very specific to give to the whole of the team, to the body. And that's what I truly believe in. And that's why I think I am where I am today.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think if you take God with you, it's hard to fail.
Amen.
So Jim, one last question before we take off. Now that you've been through the experience, you're close to the end. If you could go back to your 20s, when you're going to school and getting out of school and learning this world, and you knew what you knew now, what would you do different, and what would you do the same?
That's a tough question, because again, I feel like we are a product of our process, right? That's a phrase that I use all the time. So I believe I am where I am today because of that journey, because of that path. Now, would it have been more beneficial to have done that a little earlier? I don't know, because I learned so much through every experience that I went through. Would I be who I am as a husband and a father, with my wife and my beautiful girls? I don't know that. I failed a lot early as a dad, and I say that again, not that I was a horrible dad, but all of those experiences shaped me to who I am today. And that's why I'm able to give the advice that I give. So I'm grateful for those experiences. I'm grateful for where I am today. Am I content? Not yet. There's still so much for me to do. And I'm looking forward to the next season.
Nice. Awesome. Hey, Jim, thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate it. We're gonna let the audience go real quick. And if anybody would like to get in touch with you, how would you recommend getting in touch with you?
They can go on my social media. Jim Rhubart is Facebook. I think that's the same for Instagram. I'll feel free to give out my number. I answer all calls, all text messages, 856-207-4933. One thing, again, I tell people, even with the teams I work around with today, if you feel a burden or if you feel overwhelmed and you're not allowing those around you to help you, you're actually doing them a disservice. Because when I'm able to give to others, it fills my cup. So if you have anything at all that you want to talk about, please do not hesitate to reach out. And if I don't know the answer, I'll be honest with you. And if I can help you, I'll do everything I can for you.
Jim, thank you so much. We're going to let everybody else go. And for everybody else, please like and subscribe and hit that notification button down at the bottom. And thank you for your time, Jim. And you've been a wealth of knowledge. We do appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.